You are limiting yourself if you are only betting on football. I know that football is the most popular sport and everybody wants to, get value out of that. But there's also tennis and a lot of other sports. But today I'm going to be talking about tennis. I think that there's a lot of value that you can get from tennis. First thing you need to know about tennis is that it's the second most popular sport for betting. So that means that a lot of people have also seen value in betting on tennis. But also, the best thing about betting on tennis is that you don't even need an in-depth knowledge of the sport to be able to bet on it. All you just need to know is what the markets look like and look at the trends, look at the stats, do your research on things like that, and you're going to get good value for money, especially if you are also betting live and all of that. Just look at the trends, look at how things are going, and you will be good. Now, the tennis season runs from January to November. And there are a bunch of tournaments, so there's always something to bet on every few weeks or months. There are always games, so you always have something to look forward to for the whole year. There are the Grand Slams. There are 4 Grand Slams that happen in tennis. You have the Australian Open, the US Open, the French Open, also called Roland Garros, and Wimbledon. And then even beyond that, you have the ATP Masters 1000, you have ATP 500, ATP 250 as well. And of course, like we had this year at the Olympics, we had games in tennis as well. That you could have bet on. So tennis, all year you're going to have games to bet on. You can, have fun, you can test things, you can do anything that you want to do. But I'm going to give you tips right now on how you can bet on tennis. Number 1, always rely on head-to-head. Now the world number 1 could be facing a player who constantly beats him on a particular surface. Instead of backing the big name, always remember that you can back the opponent if their next match is on the opponent's better surface. So don't always rely on just the fact that this person is the favorite for the game. Obviously, even if it's a different surface, even if the opponent is better on that surface, the odds will always still be in favor of the world number 1. But you have to look out for that and be very careful. Make sure you do your research and you know the history of the 2 players in question, how their head-to-head tallies and what they usually do on that particular surface. And following from the first point, you also always have to consider the surface of the game. Where are they playing it? Is it on clay, is it on hard court, and all of that? Because, for instance, Rafael Nadal was the king. They called him the king of clay. So no matter how informed you are, no matter how great you are, no matter how great you are against him, or your record is against him, if you're facing Nadal on clay, you know that you are almost certainly going to lose. And that is something that you have to keep in mind. If someone is really, really good on a particular surface, that person will always be probably the favorite. Even if it's not the bookie's favorite, person could be the favorite for that particular game, and you have to look out for that. There are 3 surfaces in tennis: the grass, the hard court, and clay. So always remember that and do your research on all the surfaces and know which competition happens on which surface. That's very important. Also, another thing you need to do is to know the players. It's very important that you are constantly following these players to see what they're like, what their record is and everything. Know their history as well. That's very important because research helps you. And for instance, if you're dealing with someone like Novak Djokovic has a thing where he's considered like the most mentally tough player in everything, and if Djokovic is down 2 sets to 0, fact is, if you know Djokovic, you know that game is not over yet. But if you're just someone who just observes the sport casually, you may not know that Djokovic is going to come back in that game. You just see that, 2-0 down already, is going to lose. But Djokovic is the kind of person that will come back from a deficit like that. He has done it many times. He has been on the brink of defeat and come back so many times. So that's why it's important to know the player, so you know when, to step in and bet. Now, if such a bet comes up, or if such a situation comes up, 2-0 down Djokovic, you know that, it's time for me to bet on Djokovic to win this game. And you could just put a little money on it and see how that pans out, because you know that Djokovic has a history of coming back in such situations. Now, another thing to know is that you have to back the favorites in slams always. Always back the favorites. It's very important because in terms of Grand Slams, it's a different ball game entirely. The favorites always advance, always go far, and always tend to win. So you need to back the favorites whenever you are betting on slams. Remember that I mentioned that there are 4 Grand Slams: the Australian Open, the US Open, Wimbledon, and Roland Garros, also known as the French Open. So keep that in mind. Also, use handicaps a lot. Now, we already have a video on handicap betting that you can use to know what handicap betting is about and what it means. But after going through that video, keep this in mind. When you're betting on tennis, use handicap betting a lot because it's actually very effective in tennis. That's all I'll say on that. Also, take advantage of live betting. Like I mentioned earlier about the Djokovic situation, that kind of game is where you now step in. It's live betting. It's already happening. You are seeing the trends. Djokovic is down 2-0. The odds are going to be beautiful and very, very easy to bet on. So you just get in. As soon as you see something like that, you step in and you quickly just make your bets. But make sure that it's always an informed decision. Recall that even while I was mentioning the Djokovic thing, I referred to the history, his history of doing a certain thing whenever he's down like that. So always keep that in mind. Make sure that you have done your research. Make sure that you understand the trends. It's very important that you do that so that you are still betting responsibly and safely and you're not throwing money away. But anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me on this Betting Academy video. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and let us also know what other tips you have if you're someone that already bets on tennis. Thank you very much for joining. Take care. Bye.